here, Gene Galin with the Chatham Journal, and I have the infamous Mr. Eric Andrews of Realty World. We're here in Pittsboro, and the big news is Disney is coming to Chatham County.
Chatham Park, Pittsboro.
And the development is called Asteria. It's Asteria. For folks from New York City, that is not Astoria, Queens. It's Asteria. It's spelled differently.
Yeah.
All right. So the news broke a couple weeks ago. You had mentioned that you've been getting bunches of calls about this. I guess it's more. You've had more people reach out to you about it than the rumor about Chick-fil-A coming to town, which Chick-fil-A is not coming to town at the moment. We can touch on that in a second.
Sure. Yeah, it was over 100 texts, and it was California, Arizona, Alabama. I mean, really, Texas, all over the country. One of the most interesting thing is, like, I grew up in upstate New York, and I got texts from high school people that I hadn't heard from in 30 years, and they're like, really, Pittsburgh? Like, don't you live in Pittsburgh? Or they knew me from like Facebook or whatever, and they're like, I can't believe, I mean, their first two were in Florida. Their next one is California, and that makes sense.
Right.
I mean, you already think of Disney in Florida and California, but then the third being Pittsboro. A lot of people were asking me why.
And when they asked why, what was your answer to them?
Well, I mean, Pittsboro has really been established as a suburb or an outlying area of Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and that area consistently ranks as one of the best places to live in the country. I mean, highest level of PhDs, high pharmaceutical, high tech, high education, sports background, good medical, and so it consistently ranks as one of the top places to live. And Pittsboro's just in the outskirts. I mean, still an easy, close commute. I mean, we think of the airport being a half hour, 45 minutes away, but when you're in California or Atlanta, you wish that you were only a half hour, 45 minutes away.
Yeah, I think you mentioned when we talked before, you mentioned that folks that have moved here from other states, particularly California, when you say, well, the ride into RTP area is 30, 45 minutes, they're
That's
like...
That's a dream. Yeah, they can be 15 miles away and it can be over an hour. So that commute is nothing to them.
All right. It is how many acres? It's going to be on, I think, 1,500 acres.
1,500 acres.
4,000 residential units. When you have residential units, what do you use as a multiplier to figure out how many folks are going to show up?
I think you're supposed to say 3.5 or 3.6, but we always say 4.
Oh, you always say 4. So basically, we're looking to drop
16,000.
16,000. Now, the fact that they're going to have 50 community.
Yeah, that probably drops the numbers because those are usually going to be 1 or 2.
Okay.
And the 55 and older, that's probably averaging just under 2.
So basically, anywhere from about 12,000 to 16,000.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Where's this 1,600 acres going to be located within Chatham?
1,500. It's in the northeastern part of Chatham Park. We're looking at the area between the commercial section of Mosaic and basically the Haw River, and so it's that corridor. It's going to have like limited access off of 15501, but the majority of the access is going to be off of the 64 bypass.
So it's going to be easy and convenient.
Easy to get in and out. Hopefully, we're not going to increase our downtown traffic. I think that primary exit ramp is going to be the way people are going to be getting in and out.
All right. You mentioned friends from all over reaching out to you, texting you, but we know that folks in this community are, I don't know if the word concerned is too much. It's more concerned is. Yeah, it's kind of like, concerned. Oh my gosh, what does this mean? Because when you think of Disney, you think of them as a multinational organization.
Sure. Right. Yeah, there's been a misconception that, the Disney brand carries a lot of weight. Like, I know people that they take Disney cruises. I'm like, seriously, a Disney cruise? And they're like, well, we know the quality that the cruise is going to be because it has the Disney name on it. I think the same thing with these residential communities. People know, they have an expectation of what the quality is going to be because it has the Disney name on it. I don't think we're not gonna have a Space Mountain. They're not gonna be roller coasters throughout.
No Space Mountain. But hey, are we gonna be able to have breakfast with a princess, a Disney princess?
There might be a few statues around. I think it's more of a branding and a level of quality that Disney is setting the standard at. So there's gonna be a lot of walking trails, a lot of fitness, a lot of community centers like clubhouses, gyms, and I think it's more of the branding than it is anything that really makes it Disney themed so much. It's more that when you hear and see that Disney name, that you're going to have an expectation of the quality.
Okay, and there's also, I think, there was mention of, again, the article is Asteria, where Disney Magic meets Chatham County in the Chatham Journal. There was mention of there's going to be some memberships, clubs, or swimming, and that kind of stuff involved with this as well.
I'm sure we're going to have pickleball. That seems to be real hot right now.
There's some people in Pittsboro that love pickleball, and they want to know how come there's no pickleball courts here in the town of Pittsboro.
Right. Yeah.
Starting to break at 2000. We're starting to break ground in 2007.
2027.
2020. I'm sorry.
Going
2027.
Right.
It's all right. It's, Michael J. Fox on the mind.
Yeah.
What's going to happen between now and 2027, and when they start breaking ground? What's the expectations as to when it's going to build out? Because I think Chatham Park's build out is geared towards be like a 20-30 year plan, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably the same for this Disney community. I mean, as most communities, they start out with the less expensive stuff, and as they get toward the back, I guess as we get closer to the Haw River, I would imagine that we're going to see some higher dollar properties. I mean, I have to say, I got a little bit of a sticker shock that Cotina, the one that's in Palm Springs, California, they have some information out on that one. They haven't started that one, but they're starting to market it, and their information says starting at the 1 million. That's where it says it's starting at the 1 million, and they gave an example of something in like the mid 2000s as far as square footage, which in Chatham County mid 2000s that's about average, right? And that's coming at north of 2 million for something 2,500 square feet. So it's I don't think that Pittsboro is going to match the Palm Springs pricing, but I don't think this is going to be very, very inexpensive. That's for sure. I mean,
we talked about this. I think the last time we did a video conversation, and the fact that with what the average income is in town and what housing is, quite frankly, I think $1 million would price out a lot of existing folks that are living here in Chatham County right now.
Yeah, but it used to be shocking for us to sell or list something in the 650 to 850 range, but 850 is probably our average new construction right now.
Okay.
So, and that's just a few years ago, it wasn't much more than half of that. So prices have really skyrocketed around here.
All right. So what are you hearing from individuals? Let's call them old Pittsboro and new Pittsboro.
Okay,
Pittsboro folks have been here for generations. New Pittsboro folks that have moved in the last 5 to 10 years.
So old Pittsboro, I generally, not everybody would agree with this, but I'm telling you what I'm seeing. Old Pittsboro is kind of half and half. They're glad that we're finally getting some, with these rooftops, there's going to be commercial and services. There are people that are happy that they don't have to drive to Chapel Hill to see a doctor. There are people that are happy that we're going to be able to buy shoes or see a movie.
Or maybe have a Chick-fil-A.
Maybe have a Chick-fil-A.
This is not an advertisement for Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. So, when I look at old Pittsboro, I see a 50-50 split. There are, I would say, old Pittsboro and old Chatham County, there are definitely some concerns about property taxes. If all these values are going to go up, that means their stuff is going to go up and they're going to have to pay more on property taxes. And so that's a concern. People are concerned about how crowded it's going to be and what the traffic situation is going to be, and there are some people that are worried that we're going to lose that small town feeling in the rural community, and I understand all those concerns. It is interesting that overwhelmingly the recent move-ins, the people that have probably moved here in the last couple years to 10 years and everything, they're overwhelmingly against it. They moved here, they don't want anybody else moving here, which is I get it. They moved out here for a reason. They moved out here because of what it was. But the things that attracted them are attracting other people as well.
All right. What's your sense as to how this build out's going to affect downtown Pittsboro? Because I know you've been involved with the SoCo project. There's a couple other properties around here that you're involved with. That actually Pittsboro's a pretty hopping town. Community-wise, if you want to, eat and dine.
We got a different vibe. We're not Chatham Park. We're not Mosaic and everything. I feel as though I want a symbiotic relationship with those two. I mean, the truth of the matter is, downtown Pittsboro makes Chatham Park and Mosaic a better and more thriving commercial district because we have something that they can't possibly replicate, and vice versa. We're riding coattails. I mean, there's some big box stuff. There's some commercial potential that Mosaic has that we can't compete with in downtown. Like, we're not going to have a Target in downtown Pittsboro. That's not going to happen.
They got a Target in downtown Chapel
Right.
Hill,
No,
man.
I'm
I mean, if
I'm
you had
aware,
told me
but
that,
that's an extenuating circumstance.
All right.
You don't see that very often, and we're certainly not the population base to have that anytime soon or whatever. But we have a different vibe here, and so I like to think that we provide. We're a little bit better for the local person or the local business. We don't have to have that. We don't have to have a Chick-fil-A in downtown.
we got a
We got
Verley's and
Verley's,
Al's.
we got S&T's, we got Al's, we got and with SoCo we got
Doherty's coming in. Hey, you gotta watch that video. With the 3 guys at Doherty's having lunch, and I tell you what, we have bunches of you. This
right. Yeah, they're and the people that are involved in opening the Doherty's here at SoCo are phenomenal to work with. Hopefully, we're finalizing some new ownership with the mod, and there's a continuation of the old menu, but they're going to be enhancing as well and everything. And the group that the sellers are selling to have been, both parties have been really, really good to work with, and so it'll be good to see that revamped in 2024. But the fact of the matter is, those rooftops. I mean, like when I go to Havoc right now, okay, it is strange because first of all, on a warm summer night, that outdoors is packed. Okay?
Oh yeah,
right. And even at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there's a surprising number of people. And the coffee in the morning, there's a lot of people filling the chairs. The coffee in the morning. I will say, one of the unique things about Pittsboro is like. I've been here for a long time, and kids used to sit at the circle,
yes,
sitting on top of the hoods of their car, and you drive around, and you'd be like, oh, that's 3 kids from the football team. You knew who they were and whatnot. Driving by Havoc right now, and like I see faces of people that I've never seen before. Like we have the window right here in our downtown office. I'm seeing different kinds of cars pull up that we haven't seen in Pittsboro in a long time. Very expensive cars, or I'm seeing people walk up and down Pittsboro. It's just. It is a small town, and these are unfamiliar faces, which is a good thing. I mean, we're growing and everything, but it is weird to see people that you've never seen before, and that Havoc has quite a crowd, big crowd.
Yeah, and I was here the other morning. We're setting up a communication. Well, actually, we're setting up information display in front of the window, and we'll talk about that some other time. But when I was here, someone came in and saying, "Hey, is there property to put up a new restaurant in the area?"
Yeah.
So I guess you're getting a lot more of that kind of traffic, and a lot more of those kind of inquiries.
Yeah.
And that was more of a mom and pop. I don't think when those folks walked in, that wasn't a chain or anything. It didn't appear.
No, they're either moving here from somewhere else, and they might have done that where they moved from, and now they want to do it here, or they have that retirement dream. But the most common thing is that they want some kind of satellite office. They've been successful in Cary, Apex, or Chapel Hill, or Durham, and they see Pittsboro as the next opportunity.
So you're going to have a lot of that stuff moving into this area, and not just due to Disney, but just the growth in the area.
Well, it's tough in downtown right now, and so one of the things that we have is, we have limited capacity as far as our wastewater is concerned. We're working on that. It's in the works. It should be resolved. But like, if you're looking at the current now situation, there are people that want to open businesses right now that might not have the ability to open businesses right now because of our capacity.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, and I'm glad you brought that up. There was, I think there's a 1,500 home development that's supposed to come in, and people are like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen when we don't have the water to do it? But I guess the way the cycle is of building developments, isn't the water situation supposed to be a lot better in a couple of years? Tell folks about that while I check on that.
Yeah. Well, both the water and the wastewater situation should be cleared up in the next couple of years. And one of the things that people worry about is that first in line is Chatham Park and everything that they have going on. But I do think that the town, the new mayor, and the leadership is interested in making sure that Chatham Park's not successful at the expense of downtown, and we gotta spread the wealth as far as that sewer capacity.
Well, I was going to say, is it necessarily good for Chatham Park if Pittsboro isn't successful? Because Yeah, I mean, you and I have been around the state and other states, and there's a lot of downtown areas where you just don't have that same vibe. You don't have
They die. They're
Yeah,
dying.
exactly. You don't
Yeah.
have a Havoc type of
Right.
environment. I know there's some folks, and I ran into this with a lady who complained that, hey, there's too many places, and maybe this will help out with Asteria, too many places where I can go and have a drink.
Right.
But it's folks are coming to downtown. It's a unique type of. It's something you do not get at Chatham Park.
We remember when you couldn't even get a drink in Pittsboro, and now you can go to several places, and if you don't like the vibe at one place, you can just walk to the next place. That is something that we haven't had in Pittsboro in a long time, so that's neat. I think in a way Chatham Park is a competitor, but I do feel as though it's better if it has a thriving downtown, and downtown seems to be doing pretty good. Like when we look at different downtowns in that area, for those of us that have been around a long time, we saw what happened to the Cary downtown. And so like Cary Cary was on the cover of National Geographic magazine as being one of the fastest growing suburban areas in the country, and they forgot about their downtown, or they intentionally ignored their downtown, and so it was this patchwork throughout the town of Cary and everything, and the downtown was ignored. They're reviving it now, they're coming back to it and everything, but it was a missed opportunity. But when we look at what Hillsboro and Apex did, I think they were always focused on their downtown and making it, and I feel as though that's the case in Pittsboro as well, as there is a genuine focus on. I mean, we have government here, we have our courthouse here, and there's just a long history of established businesses in downtown. So I think we have the building blocks to build more of downtown on.
Well, let me ask you this again. Both of us have been here long enough. I remember when there used to be a kind of constant churn among the businesses in downtown.
Antique stores. That's like I took a graduate class, Urban American, and the sign that a downtown was dying is whether or not it had antique stores or churches. That meant you had low rents and things weren't doing well. And I remember when the majority of the retail in downtown Pittsboro was antique. Nothing wrong with antique, but you look at it, that usually means that you have a dying downtown. I don't know if we have any antique stores now, and the downtown is thriving with a unique mix. We got everything now.
Yeah, and then First Sunday's been a really good thing because that brings
really
folks in that wouldn't have even considered it. And I think the nice thing, and you mentioned Havoc, and I'm going to give a plug for Havoc because my wife had her retirement party there.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they were really good about taking care of us. And the nice thing about Havoc is we had people of all ages. Mm-hmm. We also had kids, and
they make sure it's kid friendly.
It's a kid friendly environment, and there's lots of that open area is a kind of a nice town square, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. That Mike Pipkin and his whole Havoc group, like everyone has their own area of specialization, and we're very, very. I mean, they put in a lot of work, and they've worked really, really hard, but they're not satisfied with the status quo. I mean, they could have just been the beer joint, but they've introduced coffee, and I think that has been
well. They got a food truck, a different food truck every day. I mean, you can't say I can't go there because I can't get something to eat.
Right.
Sure, you can.
Right.
You can go across, and the thing is, he doesn't have any problems with people bringing over food from the mod, or once Doherty's open.
No, right.
And I think he's trying to make that easier, where you could actually order through an app, and those guys will deliver.
Yeah, well, they've had a lot of success with a lot of different food trucks, but the one that I hear about most is people get most excited is when Doherty's has their food truck there, because people are excited about the things to come.
Right, and again, watch the video. I would definitely be happy when Doherty's is here, so I don't have to drive across the county line. I can just come down here.
But I mean, Havoc's doing great, and the mod situation ought to be straightened out in the next little bit here.
We're not going to get too deeply into that.
We're not going to get into that at all. But the other thing is we got City Tap, we got the Beagle, and we got Red Moose Brewing Company, and we got 580. And those are all places that people are hanging out and having a good time.
And you can walk, and you can easily
pretty much walk to
all
those.
Yeah. I mean. And just remember, motorists are required to stop if they see somebody getting ready to go across the crosswalk.
Yeah.
I know there's some people that don't remember that, especially folks that have moved in there from other states. Pedestrians get right away.
Sure.
So, anything else folks need to know about what's going on with Asteria, Disney? what kind of activity are you seeing from outside of Disney? Because I'm sure you're getting a lot of attention with the fact that now
Well, I mean,
Disney is here.
Yeah, we're getting calls that people, where do I sign up? You know, they want to buy stuff now, and there's not anything available. The other side of that is, you know, we've had some sellers that think that they need to go up on their prices right now, and like, well, it hasn't sold in the last few weeks, so it's not going to sell if you go up on the price. So, you know, this is a trend, and I think values and prices will appreciate long term, but you know, it's going to be a couple of years before there's any activity there.
What do you see that well, it's only been a couple of weeks. Has the town government made any changes, or have they? I mean, Kyle Ship's the new mayor. Has he officially run? Is he officially mayor yet, or is it?
No, he gets inaugurated.
Oh, does he get inaugurated?
Yeah, sure. But he
told him don't run with those big scissors. That's what I told him.
He's in our Pittsboro Rotary Club, and he's very friendly, and I know he's got a lot on his plate or whatever. But we're lucky to have him as a Rotarian, and he actually made the Disney announcement at last week's meeting, which everybody was excited about. So yeah, no, I think he's definitely focused on making this town prosper.
I think a few years ago they talked about raising the height limit on buildings in Pittsboro. You see that being moved along, or is that just too early to tell at this point?
So we're having a lot of interest as far as multifamily is concerned.
Okay.
And so that is a concern.
When you say multifamily, what exactly?
I'm talking about apartments.
Okay, apartments.
And so, you know, it makes a big difference to the potential developer whether or not they can go 3 stories or 4 stories. And because, you know, you have the dirt and the foundation and the infrastructure expense, it's a lot cheaper to go up than it is out. And there are limitations with the fire department and their equipment and what they wish to handle right now. So I don't know if we'll see changes in how high we can go.
Okay. I know the subject had come up, and it had been discussed, and at that time was voted down.
I mean, that's a unique thing. That happens in all municipalities. There are concerns when you go up. You have to have different equipment, and there's different safety concerns.
All right. Disney's coming. We know that.
Disney's coming.
But I think last year we talked about where were people moving to Chatham County from, and I think the surprising thing you pointed out is folks were moving here from 2 Orange counties, one Orange County just up the road and one Orange County over in California. But when I talked to you earlier this week, you said that there's now a mix. It's no longer coming in from California. Where's it coming from?
We're still getting people from California, but you know, I'm in some. Well, I go to the National Land Conference every year, and it was Florida, and then it was Texas, and then third was the Carolinas, North Carolina and South Carolina. So that's where everybody's focus is. A lot of people are moving to Florida. Florida had the #1 land salesperson, the #1 real estate appreciation, the #1. I mean, Florida was #1 in everything, okay? But Texas was a close second, and Texas has a lot going on. So massive migration within the country to Texas and to Florida. But there are a lot of people that are moving out of Texas and Florida. They don't like all the people that are moving in. They're changing the politics. They're changing some of the demographics. And so there are quite a few people that are moving from Texas to North Carolina. And one of the things that we're seeing move to Florida is transplant Yankees Northeast that move to Florida that they don't like the hurricanes, they don't like the heat, they don't like how congested it's getting.
They don't like rain every
they don't
afternoon.
like rain all the time. They don't like the insurance premiums that they're paying because of hurricane home insurance. And so we call them halfbacks. So they moved from New York to Florida, and now they're coming halfway back to North Carolina. They love the golfing, they love the medical facilities, they love our